It's 12 noon on the East Coast, 9 a.m. on the West.
And this is Reprint.
This isn't breaking headlines. This is a second look with context added for perspective.
This is Reprint, edited after the headlines.
All right. Good afternoon to the East Coast, and of course, good morning to the West Coast. This is the Reprint, and this is Crystal Jordan, and of course, Victor Flavius. It looks like Victor. Victor, can you hear me?
Hey, 1 second. Hold on.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. Sorry about that.
Okay. Okay, well, it is Reprint, and today is Friday, January 30th. And as many of you know, we've had the photo up. This is National Shutdown Day, which means there's a lot of people are protesting peacefully in response to what's been going on with ICE, with staying home from work, school, most importantly, shopping, and things like that, just because of everything that has been going on. I think today, I think when this was actually organized and kind of coordinated, people had no idea that things would continue to move in an even more aggressive way. We know that I'm waiting for Victor to come back on so we can talk a little bit about
I'm here.
what's going on. So
I am here.
it was, we talked about Wednesday, we talked about today being National Shutdown Day. And a lot of people are exercising their right to protest by not going to work, taking children out of school, and most importantly, shopping and spending money. I think that's one of the biggest ways that we can definitely make an impact is when economically we show our power. I feel like that's probably the most reactive, that's the thing that will probably give us the biggest reactions. But at the time, since National Shutdown Day, this morning, we heard news once people logged on that Don Lemon and Georgia Fort and Nikema Levy, journalists,
Yep.
were arrested over there because of their participation in a protest during the St. Paul church service that happened a few days ago. What were your thoughts when you saw that?
I was like, what's going on? I mean, Don Lemon was doing Grammy events and they picked him up. That's what the news source is saying. And he's being charged for the FACE Act and some other conspiracy charge. And of course, he was supposed to be charged before, but another judge threw it out because there's nothing there. And now I'm hearing news that California state judges, not judges, but attorney general are not finding enough evidence to charge him with anything, and they don't even want to touch the case. So it's just another ploy by the administration to scare people, scare tactic. But they're attacking your First and Second Amendment rights right now. And it's when I heard the news, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Not Don Lemon. We've met Don Lemon. He's been on the cover of our magazine, and he's a great guy. I mean, nothing bad about him. He's laughable, funny. He is charismatic. He's nice. He's polite. He's kind. There's so many words that can be said about Don Lemon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But to be at a church, right? To be at a church filming a protest. Also, he interviewed the ICE agent pastor ICE agent at the protest. So he didn't cause the protest. He did not. He did not cause the protest. He did not orchestrate the protest. He wasn't protesting. He was there as a journalist, an independent journalist, covering what was going on the ground. And I think the Trump administration doesn't want people to see what's happening on the ground. So that's my take on that.
They definitely don't. Yeah, they definitely don't want people to talk about it in with any other narrative than in support. And I think that's what, to me, it is. Tammy says it's scary, and it is scary because it is a direct push against freedom of speech. And I think that I think them arresting Don Lemon is a very, it's their way of being able to say that this is not going to be tolerated. Any narrative that doesn't support the current administration is going to be, they're going to have, I guess, consequences and repercussions to anyone that does not, get in line with what this administration is trying to push. Don Lemon's attorney gave a statement. Abe Lowell, who is his attorney, says Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. Don has been a journalist for 30 years, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than the work he's always done. This unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing this administration will not stand. In his own defense, Lemon said in a recent video, once the protest started in the church, we did an act of journalism, which was to report on it. And to me, this just feels like an attack on freedom of speech. I feel like we are, there was a protest here, a protest before the new year, No King's Day. And I know the focus of that was to voice Americans' opposition to being in a dictatorship, and to me, this arrest of Don Lemon is one more thing that proves that this administration is trying to push us towards a dictatorship, because freedom of speech is one of the things that this country was built on and based upon. And that is, to me, this is a very bold attack on freedom of speech.
Yeah, it is. It is very much so. They even I saw an Instagram video with Georgia Fort, journalist, and she was showing on Facebook how the agents were at her door, FBI was at her door, and she was just telling us what was going on. And it is an attack on freedom of speech, because even us as journalists, we can't, now they're telling us we can't say anything. So we have to stand up for our rights. We have to all voice our opinions and share and like and do what we can, because democracy is under attack right now. That's what I could say.
Yeah. And I think journalists, like we said, we're posting our support of him today. He's supposed to go to court today, so I am hoping that he will be out. Hopefully today. I know it's early there, but I'm hoping that he will be out and speaking later today. This is like freedom of the press and First Amendment rights are in jeopardy. And Tammy says, I feel like we're in China. I think that's where this is moving us to. But I think it's important that we realize that we do have the right to speak out as a people. And I think support is important. I think when you see that this is a scare tactic, the worst thing that we can do is kind of tuck our tail and not support those that are doing that. And so I think that whatever you can do to show your support, it may be not to go shopping, it may be to, post something on your social media, it could be, just whatever you can do yourself. I think we all have to be aware of that, because one of the things that I see that this is, I believe very strongly, is when you see something like this happen to a fellow journalist or to someone that, Don Lemon has been around he was a CNN anchor. He's an independent journalist at this point. I know he's been very active on X and also Substack. He went live on Substack and was talking about a lot of this. And so, these are not isolated events, and what you see happen to someone else it's definitely going to have a ripple, like a ripple effect on others. And so I think that's what this is. The biggest message to me is that we need to do this. I think even the deaths that have happened with the ICE, between ICE and the crowds, that is also, to me, is a big sign that this is not,
Yeah.
this is going to be happening to all of us. I did see this morning that ICE agents are here in Georgia. There's, I was looking through the news and there's so much going on. It's hard to kind of keep up with everything, but I did see that there was ICE agents doing arrests here in Georgia this morning. So
Yeah, it's really mind-boggling, and as we watch the news, we see a whole bunch of unrest going across the country. Minneapolis is definitely under fire right now for whatever reason. I saw this this guy posted. I'm not sure 100% the facts on it, but he was basically saying Minnesota is the only state that hasn't been red in a long time, and so they're trying to turn it red by whatever reasons. But like what you just said, the best thing we need to do is inform each other, stay informed, read information upon the events happening. Don't be distracted by whatever false media is out there, but you still have to, weed through it, see what's important, what's not, and just stay informed, because the more informed you are on the situation, whether it be law cases, because a lot of times we just hear things, we don't know what the law really is, but we need to find out what that law is, look it up. Hey, what does this law mean? And know more about it. Know your rights. Know what to do. Maybe contact an attorney friend if you have an attorney friend or somebody that may be able to walk you through it and help you understand better what's going on, because there's a lot of information out there, especially in our community. We're not informed enough. We are too concerned about football, basketball, housewives, you name it. I mean, granted, those things are fun, but in times like this, it's important for us to know our rights and to know what is actually going on in our country. Yeah. So,
no, I definitely agree with you.
That's my little take on that.
Yeah. Makeup and Mimosa says we have to learn to utilize these newer platform movements such as Twitch and get them involved with the movement. She mentioned that we needed to push this knowledge more on the younger generation, because they are the voices that need to be speaking the loudest and actually need to really understand what is going on, because this is going to be their country shortly. Those of us that understand, we need to make sure that we are getting this information to them. And I think a lot of them are, young people are usually the most passionate voices, that you hear. So I think a lot of them are speaking out. I think that that's a good point that you make up in Mimosas, that we need to combine that. We need to make sure they're informed, and that we are allowing them to be a part of this, the pushback, because I think that's where we're going to see change take place, is when young people start to, get involved as well. In this same, ICE is an issue that is affecting and impacting across the country. And like I mentioned earlier, they're here in Fulton County, and there's a lot. There are a lot of people that are upset about that. The FBI raided Fulton County elections warehouse, seeking 2020 ballots, which is crazy. The FBI executed a court-authorized raid this week on the Fulton County election hub and operations that are near Atlanta, seizing ballots, voter rolls, and other 2020 election records. Officials say this warrant was signed by a judge and directed agents to collect physical ballots and related records tied to the 2020 presidential election. The Fulton County leaders were largely kept out of the process and remain unclear on exactly what was taken or where the materials are now stored. The raid is occurring against the backdrop of ongoing claims of the 2020 election fraud by former President Donald Trump, despite multiple audits and court rulings confirming the results. You remember he
Oh my goodness.
the last presidential race, when he lost, his his team refused to concede initially. You remember that they did not concede, and then when it did come that it was proven that he did lose the race, still did not. And then our district attorney Fannie Willis here um, pushed to have him arrested. He had to come to Atlanta and be arrested, and for
This is
attempting to.
payback.
Right. So I think this is backlash against that. I also think this is, we have to be aware that what things look like just at face, you can't take things at face value. There's a bigger movement here. And when I hear that they're looking to uncover those ballots from 2020, it suggests that, first of all, we know that this is in preparation for the midterm elections that could potentially take away a lot of his power if we're able to flip the House. But I just feel like there's something bigger than that that his administration is working on, with attempting to prove that he was unjustly lost the 2020 election. And I'm sorry, you guys are watching. I am in a different location. I'm taking care of my mother-in-law today, and so I think my Wi-Fi is a little bit spotty. And if that's the case, we may have to end a little early. I apologize for that. Can you still hear me,
It's
Victor?
okay. I can hear you fine. It was just a little spotty once in a while, but yeah. This situation with the Fulton County raid that happened, I think it was yesterday.
Mhm.
And National Director Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard was there. Why, we don't know. It's like, why would she be there at the National Intelligence Director? Why would she be at a raid, right? That doesn't really happen unless it's something that they're looking for. The fact that they raided the elections office, it tells me that they're probably trying to cover up something and not just cover up, but change the course of history. Because why would you want all these ballots? Now you're going to say, oh, look, he did win and now there's corruption. So now we have to impose these different things. And so they took all of the ballots. I mean, what are you doing with all of the ballots? You're going to, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, what's really going on here? So this is something I'm going to be closely looking at, because people are scared, and people are saying, oh, we won't have a 2028 elections because of what's happening right now. These are things that are gearing up towards that way. And if we sit by and we stay silent and we just watch what's happening, and we don't get on our bullhorns and we just don't say, hey, what's happening out here, and we don't start making changes, we could end up in a country where there's no more elections and we just stuck with a dictator. Unfortunately, I hate to say that and be the doomsday person on today, Friday, but reality have to hit at some point. And with all the changes being made, all the amendments being pulled back, we saw women's rights, women's reproductive rights being taken away. All these things are coming, like, just reversing. You know what I'm saying? So it's really, really, really appalling and alarming to me, at least.
Yeah, and we see women's reproductive rights. Just history being removed and attempting to be reshaped with the order to remove slavery. The slavery information from museums and from schools. History is just there's so many places that this administration is attempting to rework our country and take away rights and to redefine what it means to be an American. It is definitely scary, and I think it is scary, but I think that sometimes that fear may make people realize we need to be active. We need to stand up and do something. A lot of times I think we get in silos and people think, oh, this doesn't affect me. This doesn't affect me. But when things like this are happening, in real time, in numerous situations, you have ICE on the ground here. You have Don Lemon, a journalist, and 3 journalists being arrested for doing their job, for freedom of speech. These are things that our country has been built on, that we've heard for decades, since the way that the country was built. I think it means that we all have to stand up and do our part, or we're going to end up living in a country that we don't recognize. You know?
I mean, I think also we have to be. This is why community is very important. This is what we at Lennox and Parker is almost also pushing, and not pushing, but being strong on, standing on, is that community is very important. Having a voice like ours that we can talk and share with you guys the news that's happening in our community, what's affecting us the most, is very important. People are forming communities, and like, whether we like it or not, communities are being formed around the country in different groups for different things. We have the Proud Boys, we have the January 6th, we have a whole bunch of different people forming their groups and getting stronger and stronger. We see Charlie Kirk. There was a just to mention him really quickly, there was an audio going around with his wife talking about it, how much money they made after his death. They had, they made over $200,000 in merch money after his death, and the big production they had, and they recruited more people, and they signed up more chapters, and they're growing strong. So we have to stand on our own with our community and build strong and keep ourselves informed. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and to that point, I know this is not one of the notes that we had planned to talk about, but I do, just in this, I think it's a lot of manipulation being, going on. And President Trump, I think yesterday, if you were on social media at all, you saw that President Trump named Nicki Minaj as the best female hip hop artist, which is, it just baffles me how he would feel that he is qualified to name someone, the best female rapper alive, and he's not a part of that culture. I mean, well, I will admit, before this, years ago, Donald Trump was mentioned, in quite a few hip hop records, just because he had this reputation of being one of the wealthiest men, right? And then we saw what happened when he got in office, and I think a lot of the hip hop artists started realizing what he really was about, and their relationships with him were severed. But President Trump to welcome Nicki Minaj, and we know, if you're following pop culture, you know that Nicki Minaj has been, I would say, on a path of self-destruction. She's been just, a lot of ties and relationships that she's had in the industry have been severed because of, she's definitely been kind of like wilding out on a number of things. But on the 28th, President Donald Trump welcomed Nicki Minaj to the stage at the Treasury Department's Trump Account Summit in Washington, D.C., and praised her as the greatest and most successful female rapper in history, while Nicki Minaj declared herself as his number one fan. Did you see the visuals of Nicki Minaj and President Trump holding hands and walking out? What did you think when you saw that?
Horrible. Why? Why would she hold his hand? I don't understand the importance of it. And then the hug and the kiss on the stage, and then to like say he's like the best president, and like he's my best president. Like, why?
I
mean, he's the same president that took out the article on the boys in the park in New York. And
yeah.
He has no validation. He's horrible.
Well, I think what I'm speculating, because we don't know this to be 100% true, but a lot of people are speculating that Nicki made this decision because she's definitely not in a great relationship with most of her fans. She lost when she went to speak with Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk. She lost, I believe, like 11 million followers. And also, she is an immigrant. And so what I've heard is that President Trump gave her granted her citizenship or some type of card that meant that she's now a United States citizen.
I don't think that's right. And what happens when he's out of office and they reverse all his stuff? Then what happens? She didn't go through the proper process to become a citizen.
She's going to have. Well, first of all, I think what's going on is that Trump makes he runs the presidential office like a
A
record label,
sweatshop.
like a record label, because he goes for he's trying to impact culture, right? And so
Hmm.
Nicki Minaj, for a long time, she was really the only voice, female voice in hip hop culture for a really long time. She
That's
did
by that's by design, though. That wasn't because we chose that. That's design. That's the label, and
it. Well,
you know,
what it was. I mean, I don't want to take away the fact that she was very talented, right? And she did work very hard. But to your point, the way that the industry is set up, a lot of times, the artists that are the most talented don't always get their opportunities, and she just managed to be one that had a lot of opportunity and had a tremendous crossover appeal. And when I say crossover appeal, I mean that she was able to garner an audience outside of just the urban fan base. She was able to get become a part of pop culture. So she did a lot of music with artists that were not just in hip hop. So she did have tremendous appeal. However, before she even connected with Erica Kirk, she had been on a going down a path of basically severing relationships. She severed her relationship with Jay-Z, which was, because of a disagreement on the amount of money she felt like she should have gotten from Tidal. And she's just been going through a lot. I mean, her husband being a convicted having an essay on his for actually for child essay, because the person
yeah,
that was with a minor. So she's got a lot of backlash for that. So she was not in a great position. Him going and making her this spokesperson for him with the urban community. We see that always happens with I don't even want to just say with Republicans. I'm just going to say with politics. They like to
yeah,
find people that are part of the urban culture because they understand our impact, and they will get one, prop them up, and present them as their good Negro to influence the other Negroes, and I think that's what this play was. But I don't think he understood that Nicki Minaj was not in a favorable position with her own fan base, at this
yeah,
time. So it's not really moving the needle. In fact, it probably is going to. I don't want to say anything negative, but I really think this is going to have a horrible impact on Nicki. I really am worried about what she's going to do when she realizes the gravity of what she's done, and what that's going to mean for her career at this point.
yeah. She's too
The
big of an artist to be involved in this right now at this point
Well, I don't think
in,
she's going to
in
be
our
that big of an
career.
artist. I think this is the end of her career. I think this is the end of her career, and I think that she struggled when she had to share the hip hop platform with other female artists, and the fact that she's done this, I think she has, I think she has committed career suicide, and I wonder
Oh
how
yeah.
she will handle that, after that. 'Cause I
I
don't.
don't. I don't. I mean, she could. The reason why I say that because she can move anywhere in the world, and people will, because of where we are in our current history with social media and people knowing stuff. She
Mhm.
can't hide. She can't go to Europe and make it go away. She can't go to Japan. Everyone knows who Nicki Minaj is. She's not like
Mhm.
some local talent. Donald Trump right now is also suing the IRS for $10 billion because they released his IRS files or whatever. So he's no, not IRS. He's suing the government for $10 billion with a B because somebody released his IRS files and made it to the public. So this man is going to be the wealthiest. I don't even know scammer. I don't know. It's just horrible with everything going on right now. I mean, it just keeps
But a
pile
lot of it,
every
like I
day.
said,
Just pile.
it's
A lot of it's
distracting.
just noise. It is,
Well,
but
it's meant to just distract us from probably what
it
is really
is.
going on.
Yeah.
But that USA Today headline, rejected by rap, Nicki Minaj become Trump's #1 fan. Now, Vacation Every Day made a statement that said the males in the culture that support this administration don't get the same deserved backlash. And I think I understand why you say that, because I know that Rick Ross, I think, did some things with Trump, Snoop,
Snoop
and
Dogg.
I
Yeah.
believe Ludacris, because I was working on the next Benjamin Crump civil rights brunch that we actually were a part of. Lennox and Parker sponsored as the media sponsor last year, and someone mentioned Ludacris' name, and we were told that because of his affiliation with Trump, he would not be someone to suggest. But I will say that Nikki did a little bit more than some of these artists have done. She has been speaking, holding hands.
She kissed the ring.
She kissed the ring, right? And so we haven't seen. I kind of split because being a entertainment publicist, I definitely understand how important it is artists we understand why years ago artists were always encouraged to remain bipartisan because their livelihood and their fan base can be affected, and they usually have fans that are on both sides, right? And so it's difficult to say I don't want to take a job performing, which is what I do. But I think in this case, we definitely understand why it's important. In previous times, I have said that I think we should not silence or cancel artists because they take an opportunity to perform, because you got to realize their job is to entertain their fans. And if they have fans on both sides, I think that's kind of unfair. But in these extreme circumstances, I do think it's different. But I also think that it's a little bit different because of what Nikki has become the biggest pawn, one of the biggest pawns in the Trump administration for this in 2026. I know that Luda's camp actually pulled out. From what I understand, there was a performance and they did not do it. And they actually made a statement that they were not considering that. It was shared, and it wasn't true. But I think moving forward in this climate, I do think that artists are going to have to be aware that
sides.
Things the stakes are higher at this point, than just.
I mean, we saw what happened with Chrisette Michele when she performed at the Trump inauguration. Her career hasn't been the same since. Unfortunately,
it is not. That's one of the things I think was unfair. I think that if you have an artist that is asked to sing at the inauguration, that is a huge honor. It's just a huge honor, and it doesn't. I think it has more to do with America. Like we cannot. You can't. Because if we're gonna say that we believe in freedom of speech and we believe in a democracy, then we have to say that across the board. It can't only apply when it works in your favor. And so when Trump did not win, then Biden was in office, and I just think that certain things. If you say that I don't want to perform at the inauguration because I don't agree with the person that won, I think that can be two very different things. To perform at a victory party is a little different than an inauguration, because at the point that person has won and is office, then we are saying that this is how we believe in being a democracy, and this person won. So I think that she was treated unfairly. I also think that she was treated unfairly, and I do think that she got more backlash because she is a woman. I think that Black women always get more backlash. I think if it had been, a Black male that sung, I don't think that they would have been treated the way she was. I think that we are the loudest voices. Often we are we carry a lot of things, and I think we are always the first to suffer the blunt from our own communities and from others. So I don't think that the way Chrisette Michele was treated was fair, and I don't think that what Chrisette Michele did was the same thing as what Nicki Minaj did.
I think Chrisette Michele, the fact that she performed for the office of the White House at the time was after Barack Obama was president. Coming out of that, she performed for the office, not for the person in the office so much. And now that we look back and we see what was done, I can say, listen, this woman got the job because it was like, listen, this is for the office of the administration for the president of the White House. So that's a great honor. Who wouldn't want to perform at the White House? But looking back now, it's like, okay, well, she wasn't doing it for Trump. She was doing it for the, but We see afterwards now what's going on with Nicki Minaj, with Snoop, and we as a culture also have to take we also have to take some responsibility for that too, I think, because we support these same artists that go out and do these things, and we say, "Oh, it's not a big deal. He was just performing. It's a business deal." Not everything should be, we can't do that now moving forward.
And I think that you openly see how this administration is using people of, I mean, they're just using people of color as pawns to connect with their audience.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, just to be fair, Kanye West openly supported Trump, wearing a MAGA hat, and was seen in the White House quite a bit in Trump's first term. And I don't think that Kanye received the same backlash as a Chrisette Michele, which is crazy.
No.
Which goes to the point earlier made that a lot of times women are held to a different standard and receive more backlash than men. Kanye was actively campaigning. And we say, okay, well, he's bipolar. Yeah, but we don't, his intent was definitely to support President Trump.
Yeah.
And Lil Wayne endorsed President Trump in 2020. And a lot of different rappers, Ice Cube, and I don't think that the men have received the same backlash. So I do,
they have not. No,
agree that that's not fair. Chrisette Michele was going to sing for an inauguration for the country, and I don't think that's the same as Kanye West wearing a MAGA hat and going hard. It's just very strange, very strange. But I do think at this point we should all be seeing that things are a lot more dire, and we have to stand together, or we're going to all end up in a very bad place. Speaking of people not supporting or supporting, very strange. I find this very, very strange that Melania Trump would have put out a documentary.
I know, right?
Strange that I don't. She put, this new documentary about First Lady Melania Trump has been pulled from theaters in South Africa just days before its scheduled release. The country's local distributor cited recent developments for canceling the theatrical run, though it insisted the decision was its own and not due to external pressure. This move comes amid political tensions between South Africa and the United States. This documentary, Melania, about the First Lady's life leading up to her husband's inauguration, was set for a global release in South Africa. That's just a very strange move to me. I have no idea.
Very strange.
Because for all practical purposes, Melania Trump has been eerily silent. During his first term, we didn't see anything from her. During this term, even less. So I just was very strange.
She wasn't on the campaign trail.
No, she does. She makes it clear that does not want to be included in, basically supporting or speaking out about any causes. She does, and we've never seen a president's wife do that in the past. Most of the time, first ladies are very involved in specifically issues that deal with families and children, and she's made a point not to do that. She makes a point not to hold her husband's hand in public as well, that we've noted. So for her to try to release this documentary, I'm surprised that she felt that she would receive support at all.
I don't know why now.
Yeah, the film has provoked controversy due to its high budget, heavy promotion, and political connections tied to the Trump White House. Just very odd that this happened.
Yeah, in a day and age like right now where there's so much going on, even let's just say, granted, let's say it's a good documentary, let's say Trump was a good guy, let's say all this other stuff, right? In a moment right now where her husband, who's current president, is in the thick of problems, why would you divert from that and put a film out? There's no support that's going to be going that way, especially in the country. The country's not going to support you. No one's going to support you on this whole document.
It's poor timing, at the very least.
I don't know why.
I will say this, Victor. I'm a little curious about what the documentary is about, because from
me too, right?
From my understanding, prior to becoming, Mrs. Donald Trump, we know that she was a model, right? And she was, I can't imagine her past being one that would be inspirational or of merit. I mean, she did some nude modeling. I'm sure she did some other modeling, and then it feels very mail order bride ish the way she
Yeah.
ended up with Trump. So I can't. I am not gonna lie. My curiosity of what is her story. I wouldn't pay to see it or support it, but I am curious about what does that look like.
Why a movie? Why not a book? Why not a
Well,
docu-series
I would
on
never assume
Netflix?
that Melania could write a book.
Well, it doesn't matter if she could write. I'm just saying, I'm not
Yeah,
saying
I
write a
mean,
book.
yeah.
I'm saying why this big Hollywood release? And I think it has something to do with the film director, and the deal that Trump is trying to do with the movie studios, Warner and Paramount, and the whole TikTok deal. And these guys are all in bed together. So there's something that's going on behind the scenes with these conglomerate companies and social media and technology. It's all looped into one lump sum, and this is probably part of the deal where she's like, "Okay, I need a film, and if you support my film," and I don't know. All I know is South America did the right thing. They pulled the plug on it. No one's buying tickets. It's
There were
not.
zero tickets sold, which is
Yeah.
hilarious.
Doesn't make any
And
sense.
I'm sure Trump is going to try to do something, but I do see that there are a lot of places. I mean, people are withdrawing their support. That's not funny. Other countries are withdrawing their support for America. So we are really I mean, this administration is tearing our country down. I think it's going to extend
Hmm.
far beyond his term, honestly. I really do think it's going
Yeah.
to extend. Tammy said, we know she can't write a speech. She cannot, and she has not even attempted to. I think there was a speech that she did um, his first term where she basically had taken phrases and whole phrases from a former speech that Michelle Obama did, and people called her on it and laughed about it. And she didn't, she's got a very thick accent. It's very difficult to understand her.
Yeah.
Um, but I can't imagine what this documentary was about. Probably a lot of pictures. Um, like I cannot imagine. I can't imagine that. But also speaking of movies, there was reports that Bill Cosby headlines went out. Bill Cosby admitted he used 7 different quaaludes to drug women. So this report went out, and we all know that Bill Cosby is he was sentenced, and then his sentence was overturned, and so he is not in prison currently. Um, his team put out a statement, but I wanted to just have a little bit of a conversation about this because this came from a 2005 sworn deposition that was unsealed, where Cosby admitted to obtaining quaaludes with the intention of giving them to um, young women for sexual purposes. Now, his his team, I believe this is his legal team, explained, kind of added a little bit of context to that, and they actually showed, and we talked about it. I know we don't have the slide here, but we talked about what the timing, right? Because if you admit to using quaaludes in this political climate or this time period, it obviously raises a lot of eyebrows. However, at the time that statement was made, this practice was very common and joked about, and they even showed a billboard that was out in the 60s that said quaaludes and coke, kind of like like how we use Red Bull, to with different drinks.
Yeah. Hmm.
um, and so I wonder if you know I am not usually a conspiracy theorist, but I'm not, but I do believe that Bill Cosby, in my personal opinion, is probably the biggest contributor to um, a positive image of African Americans in television history. My personal belief. If you look at what the Cosby Show did in the 80s, in introducing a middle class Black family, promoting education, so many of the episodes were opportunities to indulge and introduce culture, and history, Black history. Bill Cosby is single-handedly responsible for basically increasing the number of Black college students because with the different world, the impact that show had on African American college admissions, and not just college admissions, but obviously support and attention to HBCUs. There's nothing in the American history that has had such a direct impact on enrollments for African American students, and I don't think that we can, overlook that. But his team suggests that his 2005 deposition testimony was taken out of context. They argue that while he admitted to obtaining quaaludes, he never admitted to giving them to women without their knowledge, and that it also was in a very different time period. And we know that context is really important. Although his 2018 criminal conviction for assaulting Andre Constant was overturned in 2021, the ruling was not a vindication of his conduct. But I do think that because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do think that his contribution to the television and film industry, and at the point before all this happened, where this case was brought up, he was in the process of attempting to buy a network. I just don't think we can, not take all this into consideration when you look at his overall legacy, and I don't, I know that introducing that at a time during the Me Too movement, when people were, the culture, the atmosphere was ripe for going after, predators and men that were doing that. I'm not excusing behavior, but I am saying I think the context, there may have been things taken out of context, and it also might have been an ulterior motive for why these women were, all of a sudden kind of corralled and came forward. It's just not something that I don't think that was by coincidence at all. And I think when you look at what he did, in addition to having these shows that were number one shows, that were crossover shows that showed African Americans in a much different light. Sometimes I go back and watch the Cosby Show, and it's like, not only were they doing that, but they were also educating us. They were instilling pride in the African American culture. It's a lot different. And I do not think it is the same argument about R. Kelly. I think these are two very different arguments. I also believe that, when you look at what the contributions that he and his wife Camille made for HBCU, millions of dollars, to those schools. And I'm not saying that money, is the answer to overcome bad conduct, but I am saying that it seems very strange that this came at a time that would work politically, because of what was going on in our culture, and it was at the time that he was preparing to get a network. And we know what his contribution to NBC, which was arguably one of the biggest networks in the 80s at that time. So the impact was undeniable, and I think there are people that would not want that impact to continue.
Yeah, I think aside from the victims that were, violated during whatever happened in that time, there are other people who probably were worse than Bill Cosby that never got, convicted of anything, or even, whatever. But like you say, Bill Cosby was the reason why we have a lot of our Black communities, celebrities today. Rest in peace, Malcolm Jamal Warner, Felicia Rashad. I mean, you can name endless names, not just the main characters, but everyone else behind the scenes. Samuel L. Jackson, he was a standing for Bill Cosby. A lot of Black actors and actresses came across the Cosby network. So, yeah, it's a tough one. It's a real tough one. You know,
Yeah.
because in today's time we have Red Bull, we have all of the
And
various
that's something that really is pushed. I,
yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
around celebrity parties and people are talking about, yeah, take some Red Bull and Adderall. And it's a very culturally accepted thing. You
Hmm.
know, people,
In 10 years now, what's going to happen in 10 years?
yeah. And then 10 years later, people are like, well, he gave her Red Bull and Adderall to make her have a, you know, to be able to deal with a freak off all night. Okay, but this
Yep.
was something
Hmm.
that was culturally pushed and it was not seen
Yeah.
as negative. And I just think, you know, I'm not want to go down that road with the Cosby try, you know, the case and everything, but it just felt very like there was more to that. The motivation behind it felt very strategic in a very different way. But I understand what you're saying. I think that there has to be a point where we're able to separate the art from the person because we're all flawed as individuals, right? And I think that has to be
Yeah.
something that we're able to do as a community, um, you know, because we're all flawed. And if something that you contributed to the culture that was positive happened, and then later we saw something that a flaw came out, that doesn't mean that that contribution does not count. You know, it's difficult. Um, so I wanted to share a little bit in a positive note, you know, because we have so much that is not positive today.
Goodness.
I had
Yeah.
the pleasure of attending a book signing and talk last night with author Beatrice Dixon. She is the founder and a co-founder of the Honey Pot, which is a company that creates um, products for women's intimate health. And it's a great company. But the book is titled The Soul Instinct. And like I said, I had the pleasure of attending a conversation. I had a chance to talk to her before that. And it was, but the book talk was hosted by Atlanta's own Rashawn Ali. She did an amazing job hosting just a really great conversation. I think that would benefit a lot of um, inspired entrepreneurs, people that are entrepreneurs now or aspire to be aspiring entrepreneurs. The Honey Pot is a multi-million-dollar company, and Beatrice founded this, coming up with ingredients that she says that her ancestors brought to her because she was dealing with some issues with her intimate feminine health that a lot of women deal with. And this company is now a $1 million company, and she had some great words of inspiration to us. I think what I took most from last night's conversation and the book is really that whatever your journey is your journey is unique to you, but it does not mean that you can't end up where you want to be. You know, I think that so a lot of times, specifically people of color, we are so hard on ourselves and we're trying so hard. We're operating under a system of a lot of oppression, a lot of just trauma from everything that we're going through, you know, hearing things like this. I know that there are minority companies now that have had budgets slashed and grants taken away because of this administration. There's always so much that's against you. But her message was to keep going forward and to know that every obstacle, anything that's worth doing is going to be difficult. It's going to have obstacles in it. And so if you're coming against obstacles, that probably means that you're on the right path. But to trust your gut, to go with, to be somewhat of a person that goes with the flow when things happen, realize that you can reroute, you can always start over, but don't give up on yourself. So the biggest thing is I trust my gut. I go with that. And to me, that was just a great, just affirmation because a lot of us feel like we're destined to do something. We want to impact, we want to have an impact. We want to leave a legacy, and you can do that in any space that you're at. You know, it's always an opportunity as long as you don't give up on yourself. So I would definitely encourage you all to pick up a copy of The Soul Instinct. And I think, like I said, that message is that you have everything that you need to be as successful as you are destined to be if you don't give up and if you trust your gut. Everything that you need is already there.
I like that message.
Share that.
I received that message. Take it, receive it.
I received it. And I was like, I got to share that.
Yeah.
And especially I think to see someone that is at that level. And she was like, I'm at this level of success, but I want people to know that I dealt with the same things that they're dealing with. Sometimes
Yeah.
you feel like people are at a certain level, they can't connect, they can't relate. But hearing her say, I didn't have money for this time. I might have done something, to get, I've made mistakes. I've done things in survival mode. And you know what? It didn't stop me. Keep going. Stop being so hard on yourself. Stop looking at what's in front of you as insurmountable, and trust your gut.
Yeah. I like that. I'll take that. I'll take that positive message into the weekend, and try to get some type of like rest my mind from social media. I'm gonna unplug this weekend and try to get outside in nature and breathe a little bit, because there's too much going on in the world. But we got to take time, like you said, look within, reflect, use what we have, and go forward. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually going to Vision and Image Awards on tomorrow.
Nice.
I think I'm definitely going to take a break from social media as well. I have a podcast tonight it's going to be a lot of fun, I think, and kind of like one of those things. Sometimes I like to just do something fun. We're going to be talking about a dating show on Ready to Love. Those that listen in, we're going to have a good time just to take our mind off of this and have some fun. But tomorrow we're going to be honoring some amazing women. Melinda Williams, which we actually have as a cover, amazing actress that we're going to be celebrating with a cover, but we're going to be giving her flowers on tomorrow. I'll share some of that. We'll talk about it on Monday, share some of that content. But I would just encourage you to do whatever you can to feel good. If you need to laugh, I am one that always will pull up stand-up comedy and just laugh. Sometimes you just need to laugh.
Right? Yeah,
laugh.
you just need to laugh.
Yeah, just laugh. Just do whatever you need to feel good. I do think that it's important to suggest that we all find a way to be supportive of freedom of speech and just freedom in this country. So whatever you do, be it, blacking out, not buying things, or whatever you find it in your wheelhouse to do, we encourage you to do that. And we will be back on Monday.
Yes, we will. Thank you guys. Have a great weekend.
Remember, we're here 9 a.m. West Coast, 12 p.m. East Coast. Yes, we wish you guys a relaxing weekend. But we'll be back with more news and more context on Monday. Have a good one.
Be blessed.
It's 12 noon on the East Coast, 9 a.m. on the West.
And this is Reprint.
This isn't breaking headlines. This is a second look with context added for perspective.
This is Reprint, edited after the headlines.